In a region blessed by the benevolence of nature, with an abundance of resources that could rival the wealthiest nations, the economic narrative takes an unexpected turn. The vast rainforests, the fertile soils, the untapped reservoirs of energy all beckon toward prosperity. Yet Latin America finds itself entangled in the clutches of economic instability. In this video, we'll journey through time and circumstance, exploring the intricate web of factors that have hindered Latin America from realizing its full economic potential. Join us as we unravel why Latin America is still poor. Welcome to Beyond Ordinary Visions, where we uncover the remarkable stories behind innovation and inspiration. Subscribe to our channel for a journey through history's extraordinary tapestry, delving into the minds of visionaries who have shaped the world. Get ready to be inspired and amazed as we unveil the extraordinary. Click the button below. Now, let's start. Latin America, a vast region encompassing South America, Mexico, Central America, and the Caribbean, is marked by its inhabitants speaking Romance languages. In recent decades, Latin America has experienced substantial growth, mirroring global trends. However, a unique pattern emerges when examining this region's development. Each time it gains momentum, an unforeseen event emerges, similar to slamming on the brakes. Consider the remarkable evolution of Latin America compared to other parts of the world, such as China. Yet, amidst this progress, persistent challenges persist: poverty, frequent revolutions, dismal public accounts, and staggering inequality. Some nations even grapple with severe nutrition problems. This complex scenario has caused leading countries in the region, once wealthier than nations like Poland or South Korea, to fall significantly behind. The root cause of this decline lies in a pervasive political and economic ailment: populism. Populism, a global phenomenon, finds its most profound expression in Latin America. It's almost as if populism is an inherent characteristic of the region, similar to cars in Germany or oil in Saudi Arabia, a local specialization. Populism manifests in various forms, spanning the political spectrum from left-wing to right-wing, civilian to military, democratic to authoritarian. Throughout history, Latin America has witnessed a parade of messianic leaders promising revolutionary solutions for social justice. From Argentina's Juan Domingo Perón to the recent crypto enthusiast Bukele, and well-known figures like Rafael Correa, Evo Morales, or Hugo Chavez. These leaders embarked on grand revolutions, but often ended up exacerbating crises. Their legacies are marked by hyperinflation, repression, and heightened poverty, turning promises of social justice into tumultuous realities. To put it simply, Latin American populism almost always, if not always, ends up achieving the opposite of what was hoped for. So the big question is, why does Latin America's economic history consistently lead to significant disappointment? Like many other developing regions globally, Latin America underwent colonization by various European powers, with Spain and Portugal exerting control from the 15th to the 19th centuries. Surprisingly, during colonial times, Latin America was far more prosperous and promising than its northern neighbor. Abundant in resources like gold, silver, precious stones, and fertile lands, the region also housed settled nations with developed civilizations, boasting impressive infrastructure, including magnificent palaces and temples adorned with precious metals. However, the Iberian colonizers swiftly amassed immense wealth by exploiting the native population through systems like encomienda, subjecting them to forced labor on settler-owned farms. Socially, Latin American society became highly stratified, with white settlers permanently positioned atop the social hierarchy. Sadly, there were virtually no opportunities for social mobility for the native population. While the colonizers amassed riches, they made minimal investments in developing the region. Instead, they preferred importing manufactured goods from Europe and using South America primarily as a source of raw materials. In contrast, the northern regions lacked resources and manpower, with colder weather and fewer natural supplies. The native population in the north, mainly composed of nomadic tribes, was relatively unsuitable for organized labor, leading to a different economic landscape. Indeed, some scholars propose a fascinating idea. The Spanish and Portuguese, who were the first Europeans to set foot in the Americas, might have chosen not to colonize the northern regions due to a lack of economic motivation. This decision shaped the course of history as European settlers in North America faced the challenge of surviving and thriving through hard work and innovation. On the other hand, South American colonial powers leaned heavily on the exploitation of raw materials and the forceful suppression of lower classes in society. The legacy of economic disappointment and failed promises from leaders like Hugo Chavez in Venezuela and Evo Morales in Bolivia spans the post-colonial history of many South American countries. These leaders, spanning the political spectrum, rise to power with pledges to transform their nation's socio-economic fortunes and usher in prosperity. Their charismatic speeches and promises of quick fixes resonate with followers, often fueled by manipulated economic information that paints a rosier picture than reality. Comparatively, the United States declared independence with a vision of distributing political power widely. This was starkly different from Latin American independence movements, where colonial exploitation institutions persisted into the 19th century. Conquistadors and their descendants continued to rule and exploit the majority, denying them the rights and freedoms that their northern counterparts gradually gained. A turning point occurred in 1808, when French forces under Napoleon's command invaded Spain. The monarchy fell, and a resistance government created a new constitution, limiting the power of colonial elites in the New World. Fearing the loss of their political and economic dominance and capitalizing on Spain's weakened state, elites in Latin American countries declared independence one by one, aiming to maintain control over power and wealth. Instead of establishing stronger and fairer political systems after gaining independence, numerous Latin American governments took a troubling turn, becoming more tyrannical and oppressive. The only way for a new group to seize power was through violent overthrow, plunging Latin America into a period of political instability, corruption, and dictatorial rule. Nowhere is this more evident than in post-independence Mexico. Between 1824 and 1867, Mexico witnessed the rise of 52 presidents, most of whom ascended not in adherence to the Mexican Constitution but through the use of force. This extreme political instability had severe consequences, including shaky property rights and a weakened Mexican state with limited control over its territory. The government struggled to raise taxes or provide essential services, leading to a loss of northern territories to the United States due to vulnerability to external threats. The absence of a robust central government, political stability, and secure property rights had a detrimental impact on the Mexican economy. Individuals with innovative ideas found it challenging to secure patents, establish significant businesses, or obtain loans. Government monopolies were granted to political allies, hindering fair competition and perpetuating a cycle of economic inequality. While the United States underwent a financial revolution, expanding from 338 banks in 1818 to 27,864 in 1914, with total assets soaring from 160 million to 27.3 billion, Mexico lagged. By 1910, Mexico only had 42 banks, with two controlling 60% of the entire market. The lack of competition resulted in exorbitant interest rates, making loans practically inaccessible for the majority and favoring the already affluent elites who further consolidated their control over markets. But what essentially prevented American bankers from employing similar monopolistic strategies? The desire to do so was always present, And shortly after the United States gained independence from Britain, some politicians began allowing the formation of monopolies in exchange for a share of the profits. However, unlike in Latin America, these American politicians were subject to fair elections. Since banking monopolies negatively impacted the average person, candidates who opposed such activities gained popularity and defeated those supporting them. A significant disparity in economic opportunities arose when the frontier lands became accessible due to the expansion of railways. In the United States, the cultivation of land was heavily encouraged by offering free land as an incentive. On the contrary, in Latin America, the elite class, owning vast stretches of the frontier, expropriated the land. As international trade flourished with the onset of the Industrial Revolution in the United States and Europe, resource-rich countries eyed the valuable resources in these more remote lands. However, the elites in Latin America reaped the profits, leaving the common people excluded. While industries dominated by monopolies experienced tremendous growth in the United States, crucial sectors for sustained income generation remained stagnant. The unequal distribution of wealth escalated rapidly as the benefits of this economic growth failed to reach the broader population. Meanwhile, in Asia, the integration of different regions has proven crucial for boosting economic growth. However, in Latin America, the challenge lies in establishing and maintaining an efficient system for smooth trade within the region. This is because the region consists of multiple states governed by parties and individuals with diverse and sometimes conflicting ideologies. Achieving a consensus on regional economic plans becomes tricky due to these differences. Moreover, ongoing rivalries and disputes between various countries exacerbate the problem. For instance, Bolivia has been entangled in a territorial dispute with its neighbor Chile for over a century, leading to strained trade between the two nations. The lack of effective regional cooperation in Latin America has significantly impacted the region's economy for various reasons. Firstly, local companies struggle to access markets beyond national borders within the region. Additionally, the high costs associated with intra-regional logistics discourage foreign companies from investing in the area. In contrast, North America tells a different story. Initiatives like the North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, and similar frameworks have successfully dismantled trade barriers between the U.S., Canada, and Mexico, strengthening and fortifying their economies. Efforts have been made in Latin America to address these issues. For instance, the South American Community of Nations, CSN, and the Southern Common Market, Mercosur, have been established to promote regional integration and cooperation. However, these initiatives face challenges such as tensions and distrust among member countries, leading some to withdraw their memberships from these groups. Various parts of Latin America have encountered numerous challenges on the political, social, and economic fronts, leading to widespread chaos and uncertainties in the region. The general discontent among the people, fueled by the government's struggles in handling issues like inflation, has often sparked revolutions, coups, and oustings. The frequency of coup attempts in the region is notably high, and Bolivia, for instance, has seen around 200 coups and coup attempts in its history. Shockingly, 23 of these occurred between 1950 and 2019. This makes Bolivia stand out globally, with no other country experiencing such a frequent and abrupt change in government. The constant shifts make it difficult for these countries to establish stable economic policies. Latin America has also become a significant hub for international drug dealers involved in the cultivation and trafficking of cocaine through the region. The presence of drug gangs and cartels has resulted in violent clashes and insecurities, particularly in countries like Venezuela and Colombia. Additionally, the corruption problem in these countries has worsened due to the influence of drug-related activities. Moreover, the economies of several Latin American countries heavily rely on the export of raw materials. Changes in international commodity prices often lead to economic fluctuations, inflation, and rising unemployment rates. Establishing a stable and safe environment is crucial for national economic growth, as businesses can then operate with certainty and freedom. The challenges faced by the region highlight the importance of addressing these issues to foster a more secure and prosperous future. As mentioned earlier, the social and economic makeup of many Latin American countries today is heavily shaped by a historical system of elite dominance from the colonial era. Unfortunately, there are few effective checks in place to balance this power structure. The absence of robust institutions can trigger economic crises, as we can see in Venezuela. In Venezuela, for instance, the judiciary and legislature face challenges in exerting effective checks on the president, resulting in the concentration of power in the executive branch. Without the necessary checks and balances, presidents often mismanage the country's economy, leading to unprecedented levels of poverty and inflation. A clear indication of the weakened state of Latin America's institutions is the frequent occurrence of corruption cases and scandals in the region. Take the Operation Car Wash corruption scandal, for example. Various companies were found to have paid massive sums to secure contracts with the Brazilian government. Inflated contracts, bribes, and kickbacks are just a few examples of corrupt practices that have drained significant financial resources from countries in the region. While the Brazilian police have taken steps to crack down on suspected wrongdoers, seizing illegally acquired assets, and closing down criminal-linked bank accounts, there is still much work to be done in tackling corruption. The prevalence of corruption undermines many public services and programs in the region, severely limiting the government's ability to spur economic growth. Moreover, the specter of corruption scares away foreign investors, who hesitate to trust governments with vast human and natural resources. Despite its considerable potential for economic success, South America remains an untapped region due to these challenges. To fully harness its potential and achieve socio-economic progress, governments in the area must prioritize transparency and accountability, build strong democratic institutions, and foster increased regional cooperation. If you enjoyed watching this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more exciting content.